Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 660. My opponent started off with d4 here, and I responded with knight f6. And we get a Grunfeld defense, a slightly unusual line, although not unheard of. I wanted to say during this game I had the feeling my opponent was playing really well, but actually looking at it later, it seems he wasn't playing well so much as I was playing badly. But at least, it presents some opportunities for tactical quizzes. We have a couple of good tactical quizzes in this video. Anyway, let's continue with the opening, see where my problems start. Everything is okay so far. I play c4, I go g6, going for a Grunfeld. He goes knight f3, which is one of the ways of avoiding the Grunfeld main lines, although you can still transpose back into some pretty normal stuff. I go bishop g7, and now he goes knight c3. So right here, I can play d5 and stay in Grunfeld type positions, which I do. And now he plays bishop f4. So this is when we get into a sideline that I'm not that familiar with. If he were to take, c takes d5, that would pretty much transpose into a main line. Queen b3 is another variation that's often played. If you've seen Chess Explained, he plays that way with queen b3. Bishop to g5 is another way I've seen. Bishop f4 I haven't seen as much, but you see it's nearly, if we back up, it's nearly as popular as bishop g5. So perfectly reasonable way to play. And I should just castle, and we can look at a couple of ways that the game might continue after that. After castling, there's two main moves, either rook c1 or e3. So if we start with, let's see, which one did I look at first? Yeah, if we start with rook c1, cancel that. Let's make sure I get into the right variation here. Rook c1. Then I can take the pawn here. He hasn't yet defended the pawn. And then he can play e3 or e4. And I can continue with bishop to g4, pinning the knight, or c5 immediately. Bishop to g4 would be kind of similar to the game, except that I haven't wasted a tempo on this move c6, which is my problem in the game. So that would be a good way to play, or an okay way to play. Let's see, after castles, the other try here for white is e3. And then I can play c5. The typical Grunfeld move, c5, undermining the center and trying to enhance the power of this dark squared bishop. And if he takes, which is the main line, then queen a5 rounds up the pawn, rook to c1 now, d takes c4, bishop takes, and queen takes c5, bishop back to b3. Okay, we can leave it at this point, but the point is that black can round up that pawn and has exposed or opened up this diagonal a bit, cleared out the center. The queen's a bit exposed there, so queen to a5 is an idea here, but also just developing with knight c6. I guess there's no great tempo move against the queen immediately. And it seems like black is a little behind in development, but after knight c6, white still has to castle as well, and then the last piece can be developed then, I guess. Okay, so that would be normal play. It took right away d takes c4, and this is not really, I mean, we're still in the opening book, but it's a pretty rare line, so not much information there. He goes e4. And now c6 here is really my first mistake. There was no, at this point I could play c5 and get in more typical Grunfeld position. I think one of my problems with playing the Grunfeld is I learned to play the Slav first, and I tend to go back to Slav type positions when I get into a situation where I don't know what's going on. But really I should stick with the Grunfeld ideas and play c5 right here, c5, to bust up the center and open up a line for my diagonal. And that would keep me in the game. So white's just better the whole rest of the game. And I was remarking that lower rated players will often give you a chance to get back in the game. There's a difference of about 200 points in our ratings, and actually he did give me many chances to get back. He never gave me a chance to get back to a winning position, but get to a winning position. I never had any chances to win, but I had at least chances to get back to an equal position. And once you've gotten equality, then you can fight on from there. Anyway, so he was making mistakes. I just wasn't. I was making mistakes of my own, and he always kept the advantage. Okay, so c6 is my first mistake here, and gives the advantage to white. Let's see, he played bishop takes c4, yeah, naturally rounding up the pawn, and I went bishop to g4, which is a mistake. There's already a tactic here. This isn't the big tactic that I referred to in the comment to the video, but this is the first. This is a little tactic, I guess, but a pretty common one. You ought to be able to spot it. So pause the video here and see if you can spot the tactic for white. Okay, yeah, the idea here is bishop takes f7 check. And if you haven't seen this, of course, it's a real common idea. The king takes the bishop. If you don't take it, you're just down a pawn and your structure is messed up and you're going to lose castling privileges, so you might as well take it. Then the knight comes in here with check. King has to move again, and then the knight can round up the bishop. So that's the idea. The queen and the knight are coordinating against the bishop with that little attack there, the discovered check, I guess it is. So anyway, that's that tactic. He didn't play that. He played bishop to e2. So this is what I mean. He didn't. It wasn't like playing computer moves or anything. He was just playing a decent game. And I wasn't playing so great. Okay, I castled here. He castled. He went queen b6. Oh, I went queen b6. That's okay. He went h3, kicking my bishop. I had decided already I wanted to trade off that bishop. This is all right. I have a lot of pawns and light squares, and that bishop is not going to be able to find too much useful to do. It just kind of gets in the way. So trading it off is okay. Let's see. I went rook to d8. This was my idea here, to pile up on his pawn. He defends it with bishop to e3. And then I go queen to c7, just getting out of the way of the bishop. And, I had sort of gotten back to some kind of equality, but queen c7 starts to give the advantage back to white again. The key move here to equalize is e5, taking advantage of this pin on the pawn. And if he takes, I'll take his queen. If he takes my queen, I can take his rook with check. So I'll come out okay in that series of exchanges. Anyway, that would be about equal. Let's see. I went queen c7, just getting out of the way of his bishop. He went queen d3, went e5 now, because I had this idea of playing e5, but here he can play d5. And these trades work out okay. Let's see, he takes with the knight and went back to queen a5. And this is where I get into trouble. I guess the immediate queen d6. Eventually my queen winds up on this d6 square. I could have gone there right away. I was trying to avoid trades and keep the queen active, but queen a5 just turns out to be a very awkward square from the queen. And he plays a good move here, b4, kicking my queen. So it's not like he wasn't doing anything. He was finding some good moves. He just didn't find them all. And right here, queen a6. This sets up the next tactic. This is the one that I referred to in the comment, and it's really a killer tactic for white. So see if you can spot it. Okay, the idea here is knight to e7 check. My rook is loose on the back rank. It's not defended at all. And I have to move my king. I can't take the knight, and then the queen can take here with check. I can block so I don't get mated, but anyway, white is pretty much mopping up at this point, having won a whole rook. So that's pretty cool. Notice that knight to f6 check, which you might think does the same thing, doesn't work, because when I take back with the bishop, it defends the rook. So you got to give the correct check. But if you spotted that knight e7 check, that's a good one. Okay, so anyway, I went queen a6. He went queen to b3. And now I went queen to d6. But here he's got bishop to c5, kicking my queen around because he's gotten in this move b4 with tempo, because I went the queen out to a5 first. So let's see, I dropped my queen back to d7. I played rook a to d1, lining up against my queen. So he's just gaining a lot of tempos. And I couldn't find any way out of this situation except to take the knight. And that's, the chess engine actually agreed with this one. This is the only way out of this situation. But it leaves white better. Gives white a +1 edge. That's what the computer does. Let's see. I played knight a6 here, harassing his bishop. He goes rook fe1, getting his rook centralized. Played b6, kicking his bishop back. He went bishop to e3. And now I played knight c7. And finally, knight c7, yet another mistake, allows this tactic along the diagonal. So right here, I had another chance to play queen d6. Now that I've kicked the bishop off of this square, I can blockade the pawn, keep this diagonal closed. Yeah, so knight c7 sets up a tactic, and this time he spots it. So he plays d6, and I'm just losing the exchange here. Grabs the rook in the corner, and then plays queen d5. And so I think he keeps a winning edge from this point on. I don't think I ever get back to equal after this. Let's see, I try rook d8. Oh no, actually there is one more chance, I think, to more or less get a playable position. Let's see, he dropped his bishop back to c1. I went knight to d4. I was trying to round up this pawn. And then he played bishop to g5, hitting my rook. So right here, actually, queen takes d6 is a way to get some kind of position. I'm still down the exchange. And we're going into an endgame, but I do have a pawn for the exchange. And some interesting material. Configuration, a bishop, a knight, and a rook against two rooks and a bishop. And I have an extra pawn, so I can play on. White's better, probably winning with good play, but you know, anything could happen in a game between players at this level, so that would have been my best chance. Rook to c8. Let's see, played bishop to f4, and I can actually defend this pawn. I didn't spot this idea. I thought this was a pretty clever trick. First of all, if I take his bishop, he takes my knight. But I can drop my knight back to c6 and kind of hold on to things here for a little while longer. Anyway, in this position I played e takes f4, and here it's really gone. So let's see, he went. Yeah, the problem with this move is that it opened up the e file. And now he's just chasing me around. That kind of forced the trade of queens. I found some clever ways to minimize the damage here, but we end up in this endgame where he's up the exchange, and he's going to start rounding up my pawns. My pieces are just not well placed here. And let's see, as we go on, you know, if I hadn't defended this pawn with my bishop, then he would have the outside pawn, which was winning. But when I did defend it with my bishop is out of play, so so I don't have really any chance at all in this endgame. And I just played on for a bit, and he brought his king in correctly, and cut my king off, brought his king in, and he's just going to be mopping up these pawns. And so I just resigned at this point. Anyway, not a great game for me, but some interesting tactics. Hope you liked this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.